Good morning, Debs.
Good
How can I
morning.
help you?
How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, looking forward to
Good.
doing this one.
Yeah.
So this is Debs Wild. She's a giant in the music industry.
Don't know
She-
about that.
She's been recommended by Lindy. Um, and what's that M behind you?
That I've got to get my finger the right way. That one. So I used to wear a pin badge that said Northern on it, which was just the Northern line.
Yeah,
And that just says North. And it's North. I'm in North London. I live in North London. And I kind of joke that because I'm a Northerner, I won't go south of the river. It's
yeah.
a compromise. I'm North London because yeah, it feels like that's the north. So the N says north, and in very faint letters, it says all the places like Camden and places that I've lived. But essentially, it's because at my heart, I'm a northerner. So
Yeah.
yeah, N for north.
How did you end up working in the music industry?
Well, this I think this is probably the most interesting fact about me because um, I've been invited lots of times since this to talk to people who are at music university colleges, doing courses and masters on all sorts of things from just music industry to, the management side. And yet when I tell them all that had there been those colleges and courses back in my day, I would have been front of the queue, but there weren't. So I got in. I used to work with children,
Yeah.
and I often say, yeah, I had no experience of working in the music industry except I worked with children because I feel like it was quite a bit of a, artist, children. I'm joking, I'm not. So basically, yeah, I started my career in a completely different way of I was working in a school and I just thought, this is really what I want to do. What do I want to do? What do I think I can see myself doing? What am I passionate about? And I'd been passionate about music in a way that, I kind of, I think music is sort of to blame why I didn't do better at school. I did all right. I was in a really good school, but it was probably a bit too good, if you know what I mean. It was like they wanted doctors and lawyers, and I was like, I don't want to do that. And then I suddenly thought, I wonder if I could do something with music because it's the only thing I really was kind of obsessed with.
Yeah.
So I started like sneaking off after work and lunch hours, just researching in libraries like addresses. You couldn't even take the directory out of the library. So I just transferred all these numbers and names and everything into an address book. And then one day just went, right, I'm leaving. And I gave myself like a 2 month period in the holidays where term would have started back in September, thinking, no, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to go and work in the music industry. And it was like, I knocked on doors and thought, yeah, this is how I'm going to get a job, and weirdly, it worked.
What year
Even
was that?
though, I mean, yeah, I literally turned up with this book and went right, 360 Deansgate, I think the first address, and it was lots of different things were in that. So I don't know if you know where Deansgate train station is, but there's a church across the road,
Yeah.
um, like disused church, wasn't obviously a church, and it used to house like PWL studios and some kind of merch stuff and label PWL. So it's Pete Waterman's. I didn't know, but he owned it. So I just knocked on that door and there was a buzzer, and I remember feeling really stupid, going, "Oh my God, there's a buzzer! Like no one, there's going to be no face coming. This is just talking to someone on an intercom." I was like, "This is a terrible idea. What have I done?" And somebody answered, and they were like, "Oh yeah, just leave something, if you've got a CV." And I haven't got a CV, but I had done this very embarrassing. Thank God the internet wasn't big then. That's all I'm saying, Paul, because it was this mock-up of a front cover of a newspaper, which I'd embarrassingly called Wild Times. And I'd pretty much set it out like a newspaper of just every band I'd ever seen live, what like records I loved, and just that. And I said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I've got something to leave." And so the guy came downstairs and I kind of pushed my foot in the door and I was like, "Oh, it's not really a CV, but I'll do anything. And, if you need me, here's my number." And mobiles had just come in. And I thought, wow, oh, right. So it was quite like flat. I don't know why. I don't know why I thought it would be really easy. Um, I think I did that 3 times on that day and then left with my tail between my legs going, this was such a bad idea. But the next morning got a call from one of them saying, look, somebody's off sick. Do you want to come and stuff some promos in envelopes? So I went, Yes, I do. So I just went and did that. It had already been done. They went, sorry, we did it without you, but you're here now. Do you want to hang out? And they just introduced me to like everybody. And this was at Planet 4 Studios next door. So Red Alert were in there. There was a management company, studios, and it was run, place that I went was run by I want to say Mike Joyce from the Smiths. I'm pretty sure it was. Anyway, so we ended up just on the roof chatting about music, and then they just said, "Do you want to come back tomorrow?" And there was a DJ there, Danny Hussein, and so he needed some help with something. So then PWL, the first door I'd knocked on, they rang back and said, "Look, somebody's going on holiday for a couple of weeks. You're only like man the phones. Do you want to come?" Yeah. So then did that, and then did Kiss 102, which was Galaxy, whatever, and I did that for 2 weeks. And by the time I'd done those kind of 5 weeks, 6 weeks, I got offered a job at PWL. So that's
Wow.
how I got a job, which just sounds so mad saying that out loud. But that was it. And
What
what's
year was
and
that,
that was
Deb?
it. That was 1995, 6, 5. So I was quite old in terms of, I remember my first boss in a label went, "Where have you been?" And I went, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, what have you been doing with your life? You're like old." I was like, "Yeah, well, when I was at school, I didn't know that this was an option." The nearest I got to music at that point was I thought I wanted to be a sound engineer for 5 minutes because my brain felt wired in channels. I felt like my head was a desk because I could pick all these bits out and add bits in my head. And I was like, "So I want to do that." And that was thanks to Welcome to the Pleasure Dome by Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Trevor Horn, because I was like, and that was it. So then I realized, well, it wasn't that I couldn't do that. There was a criteria for the catchment area or whatever it was for the place, and I didn't fit it. So I just thought kind of plan B. And then yeah, I didn't even know what A&R was, or I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to be in it. So yeah, from then 95, that must have been, I feel like saying it's 95, but then, yeah, it was, because in the city where I consequently met Coldplay 3 years later, in 1995, because I was then working in the dance music sector, believe it or not, a little
Oh,
bit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, part of like because Planet 4, the DJ there used to DJ at Holy City Zoo, which isn't there anymore, I'd get invited to that. And then because PWL also had like white labels knocking around, and a lot of their producers were also dance acts. Plus Kiss 102 with David Dunn and all that were like, "Oh yeah, you should come down this place." So I ended up staying just for the summer, pretty much away from all of the indie and the rock and all my scene. I was just I was in the discos and the clubs and stuff, cutting my teeth, which was great, because then when I did get my first label job, a lot of the records, we did bands and pop and everything, but we also did have, because the record shop that they had was a lot of dance stuff. And like, so, all the Perfecto and all those big tunes, good house knowledge. And it was great because it was definitely I liked that music, but I knew nothing about it. So I kind of learned hitting the ground, and then made it very known at the first label I worked at that now this is I'm an indie kid, like I'm into my bands and even grunge or whatever, and I'd just sit there, literally was stuffing envelopes going, "That just sounds like Alice in Chains" or whatever, and they'd go, "Oh, okay." So then they realized and sort of pulled me in a bit more into, well, everything at that little label, but it was all very local and small. And when I say small, Manchester obviously is not, it's the center of the universe, as we know.
Yeah.
But it did feel like big fish, small pond. And there was a point where I was like, I think I want to be bigger than this. I'd rather be a small fish in a big pond. I wanted to swim out. I was going to say spread my wings, but then I thought that's not really the good analogy with the
Kate,
pond, unless I'm a
Kate
duck or a
Mountain,
goose, or yeah.
Kate Mountain says hello.
Who did?
Kate Mountain.
Oh, see, I love Kate. I
Yeah.
love her. Yeah, that was obviously another kind of brilliant job that I had, courtesy of John McBeath, was I was a band booker at the Roadhouse. So my first proper major label, well, the small label in Manchester was funded by Warner's. So, I used to go down to meetings, but my actual first A&R job proper was at Epic Records, but regionally. And so booking bands at the Roadhouse meant I could put on and book all my bands that I wanted to see from an Epic Scout point of view, which was great. And I loved that job. It was a tough job because you'd kind of like get to the office, and I didn't live in Manchester. You'd get to the office at 10, finish at 6, go to load in, do the sound check with the bands. Then you'd open the doors at 8, whatever, and sit on the door, take the cash till 11, 12, and then go home and do it all again. So it was
I
like
don't,
3 jobs in one.
I hadn't realised there's so much work involved. Just I've got a mental impression of like just ringing someone up, can you play? And I
Oh, I
hadn't
took it a
considered
bit
it.
more seriously than that though. I was like, and I'm beginning to think things about the way my brain works, but I'd sort of have like a diary, and rather than it just be like, I need to fill that slot, need to fill, need a band, I'd be like, wait a minute, that's kind of a, they've got that particular sound. So I'd try and marry the sounds of each act so that it was like, if you liked that kind of music, you might stick around for that band rather than it just be for, you know, local bands or. And then I remember once booking a band from out of town called Mule at the time, changed the name to Moke, from London, and I thought it was the best thing I'd ever heard. I still play their album. And John McBeath always had this thing of, try and pull the punters in. Don't forget, like you don't want it to be dead. So if you're having an out of town band, put them on when either they can bring people locally or they're in the middle so that there's people in, don't just. And he walked in one night and I was like, oh no, John's here, he's going to kill me because there's like literally 5 people here and they're from London. And he came up to me, went, who's this then? And I was like, they're called Mule. And he went, yeah, they're great, book them again. I was like, yes. They were so good. I absolutely loved them, and yeah, I actually keep in touch with them. And that was early doors of booking bands, but they were just so good. One of those that should have been huge, but alas, wasn't to be.
So many bands went through that, didn't they? I didn't realise when I was talking to Kate, I didn't realise how many bands did like the first tours there and started out there.
So many. So many. I remember being on the phone to so many agents, and I feel almost embarrassed to say this now, but they'd be saying, "Oh yeah, can we would like to book, say Alabama 3 or whoever it was," and I'd go, "Yeah, 50 quid." That would feed them as well, and they'd be like, "All right." It's like we'd hardly paid, but it did have that kind of reputation as a really great live venue because obviously the sound guys and girls were amazing. So, and they worked hard and they really looked after people, and the bar staff were amazing, and it was cheap and cheerful, and they didn't rip off. I think they took a 50p or a pound off the ticket
Yeah,
across the door kind of thing. But yeah, it was such a good place to kind of learn about, well, a lot of things, because I didn't know anything about like the booking, the live agent side. I just thought I was filling a diary, like I say, and then it was like, what do you mean I have to do that? I think one of my proudest moments, which I mean, I say this, I'm only proud on the inside because no one else knows this, because it was definitely lost in a whole other thing. But I remember there was Stepper's Delight, I think Jane Compton, and it was the first ever all female led like DJs promoted by females. And she came in one day, and I was like, yeah, sure, give you a Saturday night. And that hadn't happened before. And it wasn't like I'm not a huge feminist or anything like that. It was just that I loved what she wanted to do.
yeah.
And it stuck around. And then one time I was like, I want to put on a club night. Can I have mates rate? And I stupidly, I've still got the flyer. I had the best time ever, but it was not very successful, even though City Life did sort of put club night of the week, and it was called the Shis It. So if you know, you know. But anyway, it was called the Shis It, and I had Ganyu and MC Tunes from
Yeah,
Dust Junkies, and I think it was I want to call him Adam. I'm sure it was somebody from the Space Monkeys as well. So I had some cool DJs, and I was like, I want you to play this, and I want you to play that, and then I've got to like make it look cool. But it was great. It was like really fun. I didn't make any money. I lost money, but it was it was another thing to learn about, how to promote and put on a night. So yeah, it's all early days was me trying to figure out what I could do and what I wanted to do, I think. And then
yeah.
went off to London.
God, that's an amazing couple of years, isn't it? From you like leaving childcare, working in
Yeah,
childcare, to then like in the music industry and then Roadhouse and seeing all these amazing bands. And
yeah. I mean, even to the point I remember much later, because it was kind of like, there's because of that family vibe at the Roadhouse, I, went back a lot. So I ended up seeing Kings of Leon there. Um, you couldn't really see them, but they were there. And um, Enti Shikari, I wasn't quite the oldest person there because Tony Wilson was stood next to me. Um, and, lots of that, obviously Coldplay played there. So I drove their manager up, I think, to see that show. And it was just like, yeah, it was so good. Oh, and in fact, there was a Christmas party where Elbow were going to be the secret guests, and of course, all of Elbow used to work there too. And I've got footage of like Guy right above me, and I'm like, this is amazing because I'm a big fan as well as working in music. So that was me fangirling, going, this is brilliant. But yeah, so yeah, Roadhouse, very fond memories, and went to the last ever, closing party type thing to see everyone because it's just that kind of wonderful, wonderful place. But yeah.
yeah, I hadn't realised that I'm learning as I go along doing these videos that you wouldn't associate the Roadhouse with dance music, but there was like I knew of the electric chair. I think I went a few times, and then I didn't really friends and family. I didn't really know much about that, and then there was an anthem, and the track I forgot about it now, but they played it three times on the last night, um, and that a lot of people have fond memories of friends and family, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But a
yeah,
lot, it was again because it was quite small, but there was just whatever you were doing in there never felt small. Do you know what I mean? You could be a handful of people, or you could pack it out, but whatever, yeah, it's just a great place. I
and
loved it.
then something you're mega proud of, and I can see Coldplay thing behind you. You discovered Coldplay, didn't you?
I did in Manchester, but not at the Roadhouse. We were all living in London. The band were living in London, and I was living in London. But yeah, in the city, so in the city, I think there's a Beyond the City now, but in the city at the time, like I said, I went in 95 and 96, it was in Dublin, 97, it was Glasgow, and then 98 back in Manchester. And so I came up for it because I'd done them all. And it was the first night, and Coldplay, they were late added to the bill. They weren't really meant to play. They'd actually applied to play, but it was Phil Sachs who kind of ran it. His daughter was at uni with Coldplay's managers, friends, and it all got passed around as, oh, this band are great, and can you put them on? Anyway, so that's how they came to be on the bill. And that's also kind of why I hadn't heard of them. So I thought, well, I better go and see this band. I was very conscientious back then. It was like if I hadn't heard of them, I was going to be there. So they were top of the list with another band, can't remember who they were, and I had to see them. And so yeah, I got there and I was like, wow, this is good. And it
Yeah,
wasn't like, amazing in terms of no hit singles or, no cohesive look. Um, it was just the vibe of it, Chris's voice. It's just something,
yeah,
that feeling you get. It's just
yeah.
that. And as I said before, because I'm a big fan of music, you can't really say it was me seeing the future. I just knew I loved it and thought if I love it, other people are going to love it because that seems to have worked so far. Um, so yeah, that was it. And then it wasn't. I took the number of the manager off the board on the wall, and then literally didn't really get in touch for another 3-4 days, and then met them in London, and that was it. That was the start of this, but at the same time, clearly I didn't sign them because my boss said no. So it's one of those famous stories of, yeah, somebody passed on them. But that was, I think, meant to be. I'm a great believer
Yeah,
in that was they should have been where they were. So all good.
yeah, yeah. And you're still a part of their journey now, aren't you? You're still like lifelong friends with them, aren't
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my day job, I mean, it's changed significantly because I actually started working with Coldplay probably 2001. So even though I met them in 98 and we kept in touch, and I went to rehearsals, I went to see them at festivals, went to shows, and we hung out. But it wasn't till 2001, when I was in a bit of a sticky personal situation, they came and helped me out and then said, do you want to work with us? And I said yes. And it wasn't exclusively with them, because back then I was also still scouting. So, and then there was another point where I was working about 3 jobs. It's like, welcome to the music industry, everyone. We all know that. And you just do what you can. So I did for a long time have like 3 jobs, sometimes 4. And then I was just a consultant, but still working with them. And then my role changed, and the bigger they got, the more stuff for me to do. And then it's like, I'm not like, I don't manage them, I don't work for the label, but I work with management and with the label and with the band. You know what I mean? So whatever needs doing, I think it falls under a fan liaison umbrella, because more or less you can join the dots and you'll get to fan. So, which is great, it's a privilege. So a lot of my tasks are my secret, so I can't talk about them.
Yeah.
But other things are just, it's just nice to be involved. And it got to the point that probably after the pandemic, because everything had changed then, like I used to do guest lectures at places like Lipper and do workshops, and did some music business at module 1, I think I was, at Point Blank School. So I've done all things like that. But then after the pandemic, stuff changed. But actually then the band got so busy that I didn't really have time to do anything else, which was great again, because it was just like, wow, this is the dream now. This is like, so I still work with them. And we've got 12 UK shows coming up, so I'm not going to Hull. Love to, but I'm not. But I think I'm going to stay put and do as many of the Wembleys as possible, because they're breaking the record, playing 10 Wembleys, which means on this tour they'll have done 16 Wembley shows in the
Wow.
tour. So that's, yeah, not been done before. So that's quite exciting.
It must be a good buzz to to be friends with and to work with a band at the start and then see them get absolutely massive. And
Yeah. It's not even weird to say that the two things I notice is, I feel as they've got bigger and filled stadiums, I'm shrinking, going, you all got so tall. It's like you've all grown up and got families, that you're catching me up. But I actually said to them, and I said this a long time ago, so it's still true. They are, outside of my family, the longest relationship I've ever had. So, not just as a working relationship, but I'd count them as like, they are such wonderful human beings, genuinely. They really care about the people they have around them. And the fact that they're still friends and like each other and touring the world together is incredible. But yeah, for me to have been along and watched that right from the start, where, they didn't know a lot of, shall we do this and shall we do that? There was very much a deal on the table not long after I met them. And I was like, don't sign that. And I was talking to their lawyer about it, who I introduced them to. And he said the same. He said, yeah, they came to me. And I was like, I don't think you should sign that. So it could have been very different. So it's nice to know that, through some way of introducing them to 3 key people, that, and then they introduce them to people, that all of that is hopefully steered the beginning of their career, which is
yeah.
great, because it's still going quite well for them. Which
And
is
it
all
must,
down to them, of course. It's no part down to me, but it's nice to have, I've had something at the beginning. It's lovely. Yeah.
yeah. I always aim for around half an hour, and I put you on the spot now because I didn't tell you I'd do this, but I always end with like, give me a favorite track. So,
Well, you have put me on the spot, but I've been asked that question before,
all
weirdly,
right, yeah,
and not weirdly, but when I was interviewed for Coldplay.com. And
yeah,
I'd forgotten that they also asked this question, but there is an answer, because I actually usually say the same answer, and I usually say it's politic. But the reason I choose politic is because out of all the times where Chris has done a shout out at a show, my favourite one was where he knew it was my favourite at that time, and it was his favourite at that time. So
yeah,
he often changed the words to put my name in it. And so I have a beautiful recording of him wishing me happy birthday during that song. So I love it. And it just riles me up. Equally, he's done Sparks and Don't Panic, which are obviously first album. So I love those. But I feel like there's part of me also saying the song that changed it for me was Bigger Stronger, because it was the first song that I heard recorded. And that was the affirmation I needed to go. That band I just saw last week, yeah, I knew something had happened. So I know that's more than one. I would
Everyone gives
say
more than one.
depends which day
Yeah.
you ask me. But I have like, yeah, I have a lot of fondness for anything on parachutes, but I think politic, just because it just, yeah, properly resonates with me, and it's there's some just nice moments attached to that song. So I'm sticking with politic.
Yeah. So,
What's yours, Paul?
what a
Putting you
favourite
on the
Coldplay
spot.
one?
I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
Um, I got that. So do you know how this started? Was that I did a video with Bill Smart.
Oh, I didn't know.
Uh,
No, I didn't know the background. So,
So, but and I did a video with Man Parish, and then he won't mind me saying this. He was pissed off with the way it ended because I didn't know how to end videos. And then his PA said to me, I did another one, and it said it ended very abruptly. Um,
huh?
to let him know that there's 10 minutes to go. And we did that on his video, and then we had a good chat after. And then when I did a video with Billy, I said to Billy, we're coming to the end now. So Billy said to me, give me a favourite track from the Paradise. And I was like, and I went, Saturday Night, Tiempo. Um, and you put me on the spot now. So what do you want me to, any
I
favourite track?
I honestly, I was only pulling your leg because it's like it's just. Do you know what? It's so nice to talk about something I'm passionate about, but as you will know, I always feel like because I love them with my entire fiber of being, that if it's hard when people don't like them. So I always like being able to wax lyrical about something that that you can't take it away from. That for me, the best band in the world, biggest band in the world. So I don't really need you to have a favorite song. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, just in case you had one, but
I tell you what's coming to mind is I had a period where I stopped going out because I did that many pills in the 90s that like I can't remember what year, but I was burnt out and I stopped going
yeah.
out and I didn't keep up to date with bands. And then when the internet and MySpace, then someone found me on MySpace because my name was Paul Banks. This woman in America added me, and then her when you go on someone's page, music would come up, and then that's how I would discover Interpol because
Oh, no way.
she was a massive Interpol fan. I'd never heard of him. She was looking for Paul Banks, a singer, and she just stumbled on my page.
How you?
So I discovered Interpol. And then I
Wow.
was thinking, like, as we were just talking about the Roadhouse, then that I didn't realise they played at the Roadhouse. So I'd say Pioneer to the Falls. That's a track that's coming to my mind.
Yeah. It's funny though, because one of my jobs, and I genuinely, it was probably the worst thing. There are worse things to do, but in my world, it was the worst job that got thrust upon me. Was I had to manually accept MySpace friends for Coldplay before there was a bot that did it automatically. And it was just relentless because it was just all day like checking boxes, accept. And then you go to bed, get up, and it'd be there again because everybody who'd been asleep is now adding them. And it was just, honestly, you would like, it felt like this can't be happening. You just go, oh, I've added the last one, and then bing, 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 bing. It was like non-stop. So yeah, MySpace, it's a bit triggering for me.
So thank you so much, Debs. I'll just
Oh,
stop.
thank you for having me. It's
Yeah,
really nice to meet you, Paul, as well.
yeah, and you. So here we go.